This is the Saucony Endorphin Elite, the current super shoe that I ran for my last half marathon. It is my current favorite racing shoe, and I want to tell you a little bit more about it. I'm going to do it in two parts. In part one, I'm going to walk through just the basic specs of the shoe, the things that you need to know, because the goal here is to help you find a shoe that works for you, because what the pros wear, what I wear may not work for you. But if I give you enough information, you can dial that in yourself. So part one, I'll tell you about the shoe. In part two, I'm going to compare and contrast it with the Nike Vaporfly, which is another very popular racing shoe, mainly because it was, I guess, the first one that came onto the market. So I'll do that comparison because they are very different and it can help you dial in. All right, let me tell you about this particular shoe. So Saucony Endorphin Elite, here are the key stats. First of all, it weighs 7.4 ounces. This is my weighing in my lab here, 7.4 ounces. How does that compare? Most of the trainers that I used during training cycle were either 10 or 11 ounces. For instance, the Nike React X, which was the trainer I used for most of training, you can feel it's a lot heavier, comes in 11.5 ounces. The Saucony Endorphins and the ASIC Gel Cumulus were right at about 10 ounces. So 3 ounces lighter per shoe, big difference, and you can really feel it. And one of the reasons why I didn't use super shoes during training is that I wanted to feel that lightness when I actually showed up on race day, and you can feel it. All right, next, the stack height. The stack height is just under 40 millimeters, which is the tallest that the shoe can be according to current athletic regulation standards. I think it's 39.5 millimeters. So it is tall and very cushioned here. In comparison, the stack height of this trainer is 33 millimeters. The stack height of some of the other trainers, like the Gel Cumulus and the Saucony Endorphin Shift that I use, were also between 38 and 39 millimeters, so closer to this one. But big stack height, a lot of cushion back here. More importantly is the drop. So the drop of this guy is 8 millimeters, which is a pretty aggressive drop. That compares with the other aggressive drop that I saw in the Nike React shoe. And the reason why the drop's big, so 8 millimeters is a pretty big drop. For instance, the Saucony Endorphin Shift, the trainer, was around 4. The Gel Cumulus was also 8. But a lot of trainers don't have that big of a drop. The drop is what creates this rolling sensation. It's the difference between the front and the back. And so 8 millimeters is a pretty aggressive drop. And it definitely gives you this feeling of rolling forward. In fact, Saucony calls it the speed roll technology. But what that really is, among other things, but a big part of it is just the drop of the particular shoe. All right, so what makes this shoe a super shoe? Well, it has a carbon plate. And at this point, I think we can all agree that carbon plates work. They provide all the advantages that shoe companies have been talking about before. This guy has a carbon plate. It's a super shoe. It so happens to be a slotted carbon plate. Not that you would ever see unless you cut it open, but I'm not going to do that because I'm still wearing this guy. A slotted carbon plate means that there are holes in the carbon plate that reduces the weight, adds some more flexibility in particular points, but carbon plate nonetheless. Additionally, the foam technology. Now, the workhorse foam of most trainers and the entire shoe industry is EVA. The foam technology in this shoe is, the brand name is the Power Run foam, which is Saucony's brand name of foam. This one is Power Run HG, which stands for highest grade. And the type of foam it is PEBA, registered trademark. But what it is, it's a polyamide foam. And that's different than the EVA foam for two reasons. One, it is a lighter polymer. And two, it's more flexible. Two things that you really want when it comes to foam technology. But the part that I think makes this interesting is that the way they create the foam, when they spread the foam into the mold that is making the sole of the shoe, is that they actually use a supercritical fluid. And I've talked about it before, but a supercritical fluid is a fluid at a certain temperature and pressure such that it has the properties of both a gas and a liquid. And the reason why that's interesting is because when you mix a supercritical fluid with the PEBA foam, you can spread it across this foam completely as a liquid would, but it also has the properties of the gas. When you take the pressure off, that creates these little tiny bubbles all throughout the foam. And these bubbles create microscopic air pillows for cushion and bounce, but also reduces the weight. Pretty clever idea of how they do it. My story is super critical. When I was a lab assistant at Georgia Tech, way back as an undergraduate, we were actually using supercritical carbon dioxide as a solvent to extract caffeine from beans. So I go way back with supercritical fluid. It's interesting that 25 years later, now it's coming into the shoe technology. But no question, this is a superior foam to what you find in almost every single trainer. And as a result, you're going to pay a lot more for it. All right, so those are the key specs on this shoe. Like I said, I already like this shoe. I used it in my race, was a huge fan. So the question is, if you're going to choose a super shoe, which one should you choose? Well, let me just give you a comparison between this guy and the Nike Vaporfly. They're both great shoes, right? They're both going to give you super shoe performance. You need to find the one that is best for you. In my experience, both these guys I thought did well in terms of fit and comfort. So no big issue there. But there are some engineering differences between them. First of all, it's the same foam. They both use a PEBA foam, the polyamide foam. So you don't have a big difference in the foam technology. They both have a carbon plate. So they're both super shoes. But one of the things that's different is that this guy weighs 7.4 ounces. This guy weighs 6.7 ounces. It's a lot lighter, and you can feel it in your hand. So it's a lighter shoe on your foot. That might be something you're interested in. Why is it lighter? Well, it has a little bit less foam. The stack height on this guy is 40 millimeters, well, 39.5, so more cushion. This guy has a stack height of 37 millimeters. Additionally, the drop is 11 millimeters versus 8 millimeters, which means it has less, this guy has less foam in the front. So overall, the reason why this guy is lighter in general is because there's less foam here. And so you get a less cushion ride with this shoe. So the big difference in my experience between the Saucony Endorphin Elite and the Nike Vaporfly is how much cushion do you want? How much comfort do you want in a super shoe? You are, and it's always this equation you're working, right? The more cushion and comfort you add, the more weight you add. And so this is balance between performance, because the lighter your shoe is, I mean, if you look at some of these, the OG trainers, right? These guys are super light. There's nothing here. They're fast, but it comes at the expense of really banging on your feet. So that's the big consideration for you as you think about your super shoe. It's this trade-off between cushion, which is going to come in terms of your stack height and your drop, and weight, because almost all these guys now have the same foam technology and the same carbon plate. But I really like this shoe. I'm going to continue using it. I've only raced in it now twice. I'm hoping I can get 200 miles out of it, because I think I paid $250 for the shoe, which is a lot. But this is my hobby. This is what I do. So this is what I spend my money on. So that's the review on the Saucony Endorphin Pro. Sorry, Saucony Endorphin Elite. And I hope it was helpful.